Hi everyone, how are you guys tonight? Can you guys see and hear me okay? I have a message I need to read. Okay, so my name is Brandy. I'm with Brush by Brandy, and we are live here on my page because I have a large transfer that I need to attach. And I feel like these are a challenge, and so I wanted to do this one live. Hi guys, I see you guys coming on. So I feel like these are a challenge sometimes, so I wanted to go ahead and do this one on camera with you. So the transfer that I'm going to put on this piece is the Royal Burgundy transfer. It's this one here by Redesign with Prima. It comes in 6 pieces. This is one of the big guys, you guys. So 6 pieces I'm going to put on. I don't think we'll get through it all on this video tonight, but I'm at least going to give it a shot. Hi guys. Hi Cindy and Mer. Hi Sheila. So we're at least going to give it a shot to put this on my piece. We're going to put a big transfer on, one of the big daddy ones. Not these little 2 or 3 piece guys, this guy right here. So, okay, I know. And plus, not only that, but you guys, I'm doing you a favor. I'm giving you election night reprieve. That's what I'm really doing. It's election night reprieve. Hi from Georgia, Melody. Okay, so let me show you guys what I get out when I'm going to do a transfer like this. And then I'll show you what I've done on my piece so far. Okay. So I have painter's tape, and I use painter's tape to do exactly what you see behind me, which is do a mock-up, which is hold it up on my piece. My phone is going to die. But of course it is. I need a battery. Hang on. Hey Google, broadcast.
What's the message?
Noah, please bring me a phone battery and cord. Problem solved.
All right, broadcasting now.
Okay, so I have painter's tape out, and that's so that I can paint or tack my transfer up and hold it. So this gives me an idea for placement, for size, how does it work on my piece. So that's what I've got going together. Yes, watch me instead of the news. You guys can go back later. They're going to keep rehashing the same thing for the next several hours. Okay, and then I've got my Redesign with Prima transfer tool. So that's 2 things. I have a pair of scissors. We're going to need these because I'm going to hack this transfer up. Thank you, baby. I've got my Dixie Belle. This is their finishing pad. Okay, this is cut into, what's this, probably about 1/4 of it. I cut these up, and I'm going to use this when I put the transfer on to burnish out some of the edges. You want to bring out a phone battery and a cord, because more than likely your phone is going to die. Let me plug this in. All right, that'll keep us going for a good couple hours, guys. Fair warning. Okay, and then I have a razor knife, an X-Acto knife, a flat razor blade would work, but I'm going to use this for cutting it up, for cutting along my drawers and things. And then I've got my wooden transfer stick, and I like to go back and forth between the transfer tool and the stick. So these are the tools that I keep out when I'm going to put a transfer on. Okay, so I'm pretty well prepared. I hope this is all I need. Sushi. Okay, so this is a basic 3-drawer chest, and I've laid out my transfer here so that I can get an idea of the size. I'm going to pull this down in a minute so you guys can see the actual piece. So I know that my line where this transfer is going to go is roughly up in here. And the reason I did this is because I wanted to see how much of this transfer I would lose. What you got under there? I'm going to show you guys in a minute. How much of this transfer I would lose placing it on my piece. And this gives me an idea where my cut lines and stuff are going to be. Can you see my French provincial legs? Yep, that's collard greens right down there in the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and take this down now. Okay, I'm just going to take this down. All these pieces are kind of attached to each other. I'm going to make sure that it doesn't roll up on my floor. And I'm going to try to keep it in the same order laid out on the floor, so that I know these pieces puzzle piece together. So there's 6 pieces and a lot of seams on this one. And I'm going to need to puzzle piece them together. So the order does matter. Once I got my order figured out, this is my piece here. Now, I did something tonight with this piece that I don't normally do. And I went ahead and I photographed it because I think it's a pretty finish just on its own. So what I have on here is I've got a blended coat of, I've got Hurricane Gray and Driftwood and Collard Greens. Those are my 3 colors. Hurricane Gray, Driftwood, and Collard Greens. It's a very pretty piece. So I wanted to photograph this because I think just on its own, it's a really pretty finish. And I think sometimes they get lost under transfers and you don't get to see the work that goes into some of these painted finishes. So this is a beautiful finish. Thanks, Cindy. All right, so where do I start? When I'm putting on a big 6-piece transfer, I'm gonna start in the middle. I'm starting in the middle. You know, it's kind of like when you're laying out flooring in a room or something. You want to start in the middle and work your way out. And that's exactly what I'm going to do with this big transfer. So I'm going to take my 2 middle pieces and I'm going to find my center point. Now you can either mark it out. In this case, I do have a little seam in the veneer right there that kind of marks out the center for me. I'm going to bring you guys in a little bit closer. Yeah, more execute equals more content. Brittany, that's a really good point. I'm going to talk to you guys about content for a minute. Content is a tough thing. So I can see I've got a seam right here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut off because I know every seam on this transfer, I'm going to have to match up to each other. Let me show you what they've got. Do you guys see this clear little print line right here? When I have to match those up, that has to overlap. I'm going to cut this off. I don't want it. So content is a tough thing. We try to keep our pages active, the brand ambassadors. We try to post to our pages daily, and it can be hard. There are days, some days you'll notice I don't post, but I try to keep something out there daily. I obviously cannot finish a new furniture piece every day. So whether it's a blog or a video, so I just cut that right up to the print line. If anything, I'd rather have a little bit of the clear left than be cutting into my print. What colors? This is Hurricane Gray, Driftwood in the center, and Collard Greens on the bottom. On the bottom, just the outer edges on the bottom is Collard Greens. It is a challenge. So sometimes, you know, when I finish a piece, I drag it out a little bit, and that's because content, sometimes my sneak peeks do better than the actual full reveal of the piece too. Like every bit of content I'm learning something from. I'm cutting off these little these little print edges. So I watch my content really closely, what gets responses and what doesn't, what do you guys hate, what do you love, and I can't finish a piece every day. So it is content, it is showing, some people will just want to see what do the paint colors look like together, and I think when you put a transfer over that, it kind of obscures the paint finish. So yeah, this piece is gonna do double duty for me, and I think I'm gonna do that more often. So can you guys see how much I'm cutting off? If anything, I've left a tiny bit of the white on there. Just a tiny bit. It's barely enough of that line. Now out here where it's kind of clear, it doesn't matter quite as much. And I'm going to cut this all off. Starting with the middle. These are the middle 2 pieces that I'm going to do first. And I will work my way up and then work my way down from there. So these middle pieces have 3 edges that I have to seam up. Paper dolls. Yeah, it is like cutting paper dolls. I used to love paper dolls. What did I see the other day in one of my resin groups? It was someone was casting little resin dolls with little resin clothes. I thought, how cute. Like, I wish, but I only have boys. They don't want my resin dolls. I don't know why. I guess I should be glad they don't want resin dolls, huh? Okay. Heather, with Redesign with Prima transfers, no. I prefer Redesign with Prima transfers over the raw paint. It has to do with the adhesive that they use in the manufacturing process, and no 2 of these brands of transfers are made by the same company. So they're different. So Redesign with Prima, I like on raw paint. Hocus Pocus and Iron Orchid, I like over clear coat. It just has to do with the adhesives in the actual transfer itself, what they take better to. And that's tried and true. That's playing with it both ways. That's reading comments galore on them. And it's also directly from the companies who make them themselves. I talked with Iron Orchid one day at length, and they told me that that's what they recommend. They recommend over clear coat. So Iron Orchid and Hocus Pocus over clear coat. redesign with Prima over raw paint. So that being said, this is sealed. Because I went ahead and took pictures of it, I just threw a clear coat on it really quick. It's not going to affect my transfer going on. If you seal and then you want to put a transfer on, it will still go. It's just going to be a little bit harder to attach. Okay, so I've cut out my 3 sides of this piece. Okay, with that being done, I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I've got this little seam right here. That's just a seam in the veneer that was used to make this piece, and I can see a little shadow of it through my paint. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the center point of this piece of the transfer, making sure you've got the right piece. You guys, I've seen posts where people say, oh my gosh, I grabbed the wrong piece. I puzzle pieced it together the wrong way, and now my transfer is gone. Lisa, this is a custom piece. This was from my inventory. So I keep an inventory of unfinished pieces. And then, sorry guys, I'm concentrating. I'm lining this up to the center line, trying to get it consistent all the way down that line. So it's straight. Okay, because once I do this, I've committed. It's going to start sticking to my furniture piece. And I'm going to kind of unroll it. Okay, and I'm going to apply it with my drawers in. And I'm going to get it right out to this very edge, knowing that this edge over here is going to have to be trimmed because I'm using this as a frame around my transfer. I want this transfer to fit inside this gold frame that runs all the way around the edge of my piece. Yeah, Lisa, this was in my unfinished inventory, and then this customer sent me pictures of her bedroom, and she's redoing her whole room. We talked about colors she's going to use, so we go through kind of a process like that, and then we chose this image. She's putting up a wallpaper on one wall, and it had these same colors in it, so we picked this together. So now, once I've got this first piece laid out, I'm going to start applying this. I'm just using the wooden stick that comes with the transfer itself. These take a lot of rubbing, you guys, a lot of rubbing. So I want to make sure my edges are down. Now where this drawer is, I'm going to slice in here, but I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is all attached, and then I'll come back and slice that. While I'm doing all this rubbing, you guys talk amongst yourselves. I'll bring you in closer so you can see what I'm rubbing on. At least you can watch that instead of the back of my head. Yeah, but this is a pretty transfer up against gray. I like this one on gray. So with these dark sticks, if you rub onto your paint, sometimes it can leave little marks on your paint. So I try to be careful not to rub the stick onto my paint. And I want to make sure that I go over this entire transfer at least one time and get all the areas. I'm going to switch to my transfer tool just because it's a little bit bigger and I've got a lot of area to cover. Okay, right there, I just caught an air bubble. That is the transfer starting to detach from the backing paper. You want to see the top too? It's a faux wood top. I'll show you guys in a minute. It's done with the wood graining tool. I have a video on it. You guys have probably seen me do it 100 times, but we've kind of pulled pieces apart from other pieces that I've done and put them together. So she liked the top on one and the colors from another and the this transfer. And so no two are ever the same, you know, ever. They never are. They're like Frankenstein designs. We pull apart maybe something she saw on Pinterest, plus one of my pieces, plus a transfer, you know, or a blended finish. I'm going to go ahead and cut this line right here. I'm just going to use my razor knife. Now that I've got this fairly well attached, it's easier to cut the transfer when it's still attached to the clear backing. So I'm just going to run this right along this gold edge, and this part right here is going to be a transfer scrap. If they've got something good on them, I save them. This one's not too, you know, if it's got a flower or something on it, I'll save it. Might not have cut that. Yeah, I need to cut that again. I just don't want to cut too hard and like leave a line in my paint. Okay, so this is all the scrap I'm going to end up with from this piece. It's just a few words. I'm not going to save this. unless I wanted to patch it in. Hey, June. It's Tuesday, I know. Okay, and now I can rub it right up into this crevice on this molding. Okay, let's go ahead and do the same thing here. While it's still attached to the backing, I'm going to go ahead and cut my drawers. Okay, so I'm going to take my same razor knife and I'm just going to find a start. Now, I prefer that if I'm going to have excess, I don't need it on the bottom of this drawer, so I'm going to cut it right up to the bottom. I'm going to ride the bottom of this upper drawer versus riding the top of the one below it, because then I can flip this little bit into this gap right here, and it kind of fills that gap. Whereas if I flip it into the bottom of this drawer, you're never going to know. Okay, so that drawer's cut. Now this piece is isolated. It's its own piece now, so I can rub this off and I'll have it attached right here. I'm going to do the same thing down here. Same thing. I'm going to ride the bottom of the drawer, not the top, because I'll fold it into that gap and use it as kind of a filler, so you don't see like a black gap in between the transfer pieces. You see print going into that drawer gap. Okay, now this piece is isolated too. So that just gave me two really small pieces that I can get off really easily. When you initially laid it on the front, did you calculate the area minus the middle? So I kind of did it on camera. I laid it all out first. I taped it all together just so I could get a rough idea in my head what I was going to be cutting off. Okay, and then I'm starting with my middle pieces, and I've got a nice seam down the front. You could mark it up with a you know, a piece of chalk or something. I recommend chalk because graphite pencil will show through paint. So if you add paint later. So see what I did there? I just rubbed that edge and then I was able to pull it back a little bit with my fingernail. I'm going to rub this as I pull it. I'm watching it closely to make sure I'm not pulling any print with it. If anything is inclined to pull back with this piece, then I know that I need to come back and rub that area a little bit better. I switched back to my little wooden stick because it's smaller and this is a pretty small area. These big transfers, you guys, and this is no exception, this will probably take me an hour or two to put it all on. So it drives me nuts when people think that transfers are easy or there's no skill involved, because that's not the case at all. So yeah, lay your transfer out, get an idea for if you want to cut pieces off of it. You can do it beforehand. I'm going to trim around this frame that's around my piece. I'm just pulling this back. All right. So now this stripe right here is attached. I had cut off the clear, that's the halo that's around this piece. So when I go to attach my next piece above it, I've got a really clean seam right here. I'm going to cut the same thing off of my piece that goes above it and I'll match them up. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this piece right here. I'll do this bottom piece smaller. Get some of these easy ones out of my way. Okay, I wish I would have brought a screwdriver out. That's another thing I need, but I've got one on my stool right here. Let me grab it. Screwdriver, because I want to be able to open this drawer. These are those large drawers that do better if you pull on both handles at the same time so they don't get a little bit cockeyed. Okay, now I'm going to wrap this top edge. Remember, I sliced this transfer, so I'm just going to hold it down, just like when I'm wrapping any curve. I hold it down with my fingers and I rub it. On a curve, the transfer automatically wants to pop away from the backing sheet. So this is going to help me in the rest of my application. Okay, so I've got it attached, and then this piece, get you guys down. it popped away a little bit. And then I'm going to rub this straight edge. Okay, I've got a little piece of my print that's, there we go. Had a little piece that was stubborn, so I had to rub it a little bit more. Thanks guys, Debbie and Donna, hi, nice to see you guys. Okay, so now I'm pulling this clear backing away as I'm rubbing it at the same time, watching it really closely. Now this is just a fraction of this transfer that I've gone on so far. You could easily see how these big ones you need to spend your time on, cutting them up, deciding your placement, matching the seams up really well, making sure they're straight. Man, get out a level if you need to. Get out a tape measure and measure the placement. It just pulled away, and one of my words, which are a really small detail, stayed on, so I'm just putting it back on, and I'm going to rub that word. It just has some script in the background. There we go. Just one little word right here in the corner that I wanted to pull off. So I went ahead and rubbed that, and then I'm just going to make sure it's all seated with my finger. And that looks pretty good. Okay. So I'm left with this big piece right here in the center. It is a pretty transfer. It's got really pretty colors in it. And then what's going to happen is once this is all on here, I'll have kind of my highlight and my paint around the center where this big cluster of flowers is, and my darker edges right here where the wording is. It's going to really just frame out the floral that I've got on here. All right, so this drawer is done. I'm going to rub this bottom edge where I cut my transfer. And then I'm going to go over this all one time because I'm sure that there's areas on here that I have missed. It's a really big piece. It's going to take a lot of rubbing to get this one. Especially these words around the edges, the script. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open this drawer. And I'm going to wrap that top edge. Only my hardware holes over here are covered, so I'm going to reach over to my other side of my drawer and open it from here. And same thing, I'm going to wrap this top edge where I sliced it. So I sliced it with that razor blade, so this edge that I've cut that I'm wrapping is a really nice clean edge. This is exactly how I wrap any curve, you guys. I hold it down with my fingers. While I hold it, I rub it, and the transfer backing pops away. The transfer backing wants to go back to straight. So it's going to get out of this curve as fast as it can. The only reason it's staying down is because I'm holding it. Now that entire edge just popped away from my transfer. This is called, Royal Burgundy. This transfer is called Royal Burgundy. Okay, I'm going to get this edge right here because I'm going to start pulling it back. Kind of annoying to hear that, so I'm going to shut my drawer. It's got hardware inside there. Okay, and then I'm ever so slowly going to pull this back away from this edge first, making sure the edge is all stuck. Okay, it's coming off really easily. But any areas that I want, that make sure I get this edge. And from here, it's gonna peel away really easily. I had a little piece that wanted to come with it. Okay, this corner right here is not attached as well as the rest was. So I'm just gonna rub it a little bit more. That's why you do this slowly. You know, I could just want to rip this off like a Band-Aid. Yeah, you do have tired arms. You do have tired arms. Although I think painting this piece made my arms more tired. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of go slowly, rubbing as I go. I already had rubbed over all of this, but you know, it's not perfect. You don't need to over rub the transfer either. Sometimes you just rub and rub and rub and rub, and sometimes the transfer will do most of the work for you. So this is coming away from this backing pretty easily. But when I get over here to this script, I'm going to have to be more careful because these are tiny details, whereas this is like one solid sheet right here. But it's super smooth and flat, and there's no wrinkles or tears or anything. Oh, thank you, Cindy. Yes, those are my colors. Driftwood, hurricane gray, and collard greens. And the green is kind of fun because it's going to pull out some of these dark greens that are in here. You know, this transfer, like you could see it going kind of wild, but I think the gray kind of tones it down a little bit so it becomes, it's a nice neutral background. It's just a little pop of color without being too crazy. If this starts to bother you, you can cut this piece off. So what I mean is just take a pair of scissors and like, you're done with this piece. Get rid of it. It's in your way. I cut my transfers up a lot as I go, and then I can just pop this back up. Now my details are starting to get smaller out here, so it's going to take a lot more rubbing to make sure these details come off cleanly. Like the edges of this leaf want to pull back away, so I'm just rubbing them, giving them extra rubbing. Pulling this backing away slowly so that if anything wants to come with it, I know that I need to go back and pay more attention to that spot. Okay. Really pretty application. Really pretty. So I'm just kind of rubbing down some of these edges that I've got here. There's no air bubbles in there. You can kind of hear air bubble popping. This is a redesign with Prima transfer called Royal Burgundy. And I put a link above in the post. That is my link for redesign with Prima transfers. Let me tell you guys a little bit about my link. That is a retailer for redesign with Prima who carries the entire line. So they have more stock, whereas sometimes you may have to search if you want more than one design. They are usually one of the best supplied in transfers. Everything in one place is kind of what they are. That's scrapbook.com, and they're just a redesign with Prima retailer, but they're one of the few that carries the entire line. Sometimes, I mean, that's not to say sometimes they're sold out on if a design gets really popular and it sells out with redesign with Prima. Sometimes they'll run out of those too. But if it's available anywhere, it's going to be available through them. Oh, thanks, Laurel. This is sealed paint. I generally prefer redesign with Prima transfers over raw paint. That is the recommendation. I said in the beginning this was sealed because I did photograph the paint finish on this piece beforehand, so I went ahead and sealed it too. It's not doing any harm. I maybe am having to rub more than I would have to if this was raw paint, but I can most definitely still get this transfer on. And I kind of knew that when I put the clear coat on. You know, maybe giving myself more work, but for being able to photograph just this paint finish, I think it was worth it. I'm being really careful here around all this script. It's little tiny details. I'm gonna make sure I get this edge really good because these details are stubborn. Way more rubbing. I'll bring you guys in here closer so you can see even better. See all this script right here? That's what I'm rubbing on. And I can kind of see like up here, it started to separate from the backing because it's looks clear. And then I'm going to start going ahead and pulling it again, making sure the edges of these letters all stay on my furniture piece. There's one that wants to come up, so I'm just going to force it to stay down. Little piece right there. You may catch an air bubble like that and this sheet may want to pop off, but it will actually tear pieces, so don't let it pop away like that. You want to maintain control over how it comes off. So I always think it's, I don't know, I want to use the word funny, but it's not funny, but when people have never done a transfer before and I see them choose one of these 6-piece transfers, see this word down here wanted to come off. So I'm just going to place it again and make this one stay. I don't even know that I'm going to get this all on tonight. That's where I am with it. It's a long application. Easily an hour or two on some of these big transfers. All right, everything is separated. This is my backing sheet. It's free of any print. And then I can come, and I'm going to do this to my entire transfer, but I will rub it down all with my fingers first. Some of this outline on the wording, a few things that help it. Rubbing it with your fingers. And then I take my, this is my Dixie Belle finishing pad. And this is just getting out any air between the transfer and the furniture piece. So this just gets it down. You want to be really careful when you're going over small details like this. Your finger can feel if they want to lift, but this you cannot feel it with. So make sure you go over it with your fingers. Make sure all those edges are seated. And then I can go over it with this. And then when I come back and I put a clear coat over this, even more of that edge is going to disappear. I mean, it's super faint now, but it's going to disappear even more when I put a clear coat over this. So put your transfer on, go over it all with your fingers, all those little edges. You're pressing out any air. Then burnish it lightly. This gets out even more. And then from here, clear coat. Okay, you guys want to match up another piece to this? Okay, really pretty. So let's back up and let's find another piece. I'm going to go ahead and let's choose this upper piece up here. Your first transfer was 3 pieces. The 3 pieces aren't so bad. This is 6. I do not recommend a 6-piece transfer for your first transfer. Okay, this is my piece that goes above. Oops, let me tilt you guys up a little bit. Doesn't want to stay, of course. Of course. Sorry guys, playing with my tripod. I did this piece out of order, Emily. I kind of explained that in the beginning. I did this piece out of order because I photographed it with just the paint. So, my order on this is not necessarily how I would do a piece. This was your first transfer. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I know, so I can feel this right here. Where about my transfer is going to line up to, I'm going to lose this cluster of flowers up here in the corner. So I'm actually going to cut, rather than let a cut mark come right in between this flower, I'm going to cut off and I'm going to isolate just this pink, maybe this green here, and I'm going to cut off this little cluster up here. I don't need it. It's not going to fit, so I'm just going to cut it out. So to cut a transfer, I do, and I'll try to follow the lines as closely as I can. Because I'd rather, then I'm saving that entire flower. You know what? I'm gonna get rid of this green guy too. So this right here, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut that out too. Okay, this is what I'm gonna keep. It's got this funky little edge here. I'm just gonna cut that off. And then when this goes on my piece, it's going to look like it was the entire flower to begin with. See? Doesn't that look like if I've got this on here in this corner, it's going to look like it's the entire flower to begin with. Okay? I like that much better. So I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting along the lines of this floral right here. But I'm going to leave the script. I'm going to keep the script for this piece, but this floral scrap is going to be saved for another piece. Okay, we're here where it's surrounded by white. I can kind of get a little more, you know, if it's not an exact cut, that's okay. Let's say this word, you know, I just kind of try to make it make sense, what I cut out and what I saved. Going around the words. It doesn't have to be exact though. All right. So now I've got a piece I can actually use on something else, versus if I would have sliced right through the center of this flower, I would have lost this completely. So now it makes sense. Then I'm going to cut, remember on our last piece, I cut this, because I've got to seam these pieces together. I'm going to cut, let me get a good picture of it, this clear outline here so that it's not overlapping, because that just makes your seams even more apparent. Stick a piece of tape up there, right? We don't like transfer seams. So by cutting off where they overlap and just butting them up against each other, cutting as straight as I can, I'd rather leave a little bit of that clear than cut into my print. So this is what I just cut off. It's got no print on it. None. I don't want to cut the print off, but I want to get as close as I can. Okay, so that was my inside edge. Top edge doesn't really matter. It's going to get sliced on my trim anyways. I'm going to slice through here somewhere, and I'll have some script left over. I have a question. I misplaced one of my wood you bends on a piece I'm working on, and you can really tell I messed up. Is there a way of taking it back off and reapplying? Yes, Clarice. Heat your wood you bend. Take a scraper and you can pry it off. It may break, okay? But wood you bend, you just heat it and you can seam them back together with heat, and you glue them back together, and you can put your wood you bend back together. But heat it before you try to take it off, because that gives it flex. If you're trying to remove it when it's rigid, it's gonna break even more. You know, you still have the chance of breaking it even when it's soft, but it's less of a chance. So heat your wood you bend, gently pry it. Keep heating it as you're prying if you need to. If you break it, add some more heat and glue those pieces back together. Wood you bend seams back together really nicely. You just don't want it to break into 5 million pieces. Does that help? All right, I'm just cutting off this bottom line where I'm going to seam it to the one we just put underneath it. All right, so now I have some nice edges. So now I can go ahead and place this, okay? And I'm going to use the same thing. I'm going to follow this center line. That's just a center. It's just, you guys can't even see it on camera. It's a really faint line in the veneer just from the manufacturing. But if you don't have that, mark yourself out a center line. Don't use graphite because it will show through paint, but use like a chalk pencil. Just get a ruler out, mark yourself a center line. And then I can match this up to my center line when I'm trying to lay this out, as well as matching it up to the piece underneath. I have no overlap. Lindy, I missed your question. You'll wait at least 24 hours, but I'm not sure for what. And then I can see what I'm going to lose on here. I'm going to lose some of this script, and the very top of my flowers will get lost. But that's okay. That's actually a decent cut. It's going to run right into the top, and then I'll have this one flower just that kind of looks like a little cluster up in the corner. All right, so I'm going to see if I can cut this script in a place that kind of makes sense. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just I can kind of see where I'm going to cut it. I'm probably just going to cut like right underneath this line of script right here, and that way I've saved everything that I can from this transfer. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. because I know that's where it's going to land, but I'm going to leave myself a little bit of excess for my piece. I don't want to run short either. And transfer scraps are nice to have. I love transfer scraps. So now I've got this nice line of a few places of text. So let's see if I need to piece in some text anywhere on this transfer. I've got excess text that I can piece into. All right, and then I'm just going to go ahead and take this off and start working on my placement. I don't want to let it touch this piece underneath. Excuse my head if it's in the way, guys. Okay, that's not exact. I'm going to have to scoot over. I can't do this off to the side. I need to see this line and make sure it's straight. Okay, I'm butting this up to this piece underneath. Not overlapping, but butting it up as close as I can get. And once you get a pretty good line going, it's going to match up for the rest of the way across. All right, I've got a pretty good line there. Not happy with this right here. There we go. Sorry guys, that was the back of my head. More important to get my placement right, right? Oh, Solly just did a video. Oh, thank you, Kathy. I haven't seen that one. Solly Joe is the owner, founder of Would You Bend. So go on the Would You Bend. She's always live in the Would You Bend group. She's got a video in there. That's even better. Okay, I'm going to rub this. I'm going to focus on my seam. And I'm just going to focus on one area at a time. I'm going to get this nice and up here into the crevice, and then I can cut, because I kind of rough cut it, but now I can cut away a perfectly straight line. And all I have is this little tiny piece. So that's all I'm losing from my rough cut. Oh, just this morning. Oh my gosh, perfect timing. All right, there we go. And then I'm going to lose a part of this flower up here in this corner. I'm going to give that a rough cut. Right around, cutting right around my moldings. Around this curve right here. And then on my straight edge, just using my razor blade. And I'll start taking this apart because now it's custom fit. Got a little curve, so I need to cut around the curve. And then I'm just going to pull apart these pieces that I've cut off. Trimmed right around the moldings. All right. So that looks pretty, huh? This one little flower just kind of dangling off in the corner, but it doesn't look like, except for the fact, and I could piece in some script here if I wanted to, because I've got that excess script. I don't know if I will though. I kind of like it off isolated kind of by itself. I'm going to go ahead and rub on this flower. It doesn't really matter what area you start pulling it back from. If I want to start working this side first, I can. Again, being careful not to rub my stick into my paint finish because it will leave markings on my paint finish. And then I'm just going to start pulling away my backing sheet. Get my transfer right up into this crevice of my furniture piece. Gosh, let's see. Okay, I've been on for how long? Oh, I don't even know when I came on. I just want to point out that you guys can easily see how a transfer like this I'm on piece number 2 of 6. Okay, you can easily see how a transfer like this could take 2 hours to put on. The end result is totally worth it. It's gonna be beautiful. But I'd rather take my time doing this than try to rush through it. Try to work backwards. So this little piece of flower right here that's coming off, that's just, I didn't slice it enough with my razor blade. Okay, so my flower is totally on there. That's really cute. And now let's work some of this script right here. I didn't rub this quite as much. I've got a random letter Y right here. I'm just gonna, I don't know. I could take that off. I don't think it needs to stay. It's kind of a broken off word. So you can cut your words even in a place that makes more sense. Normally I do my transfer right after my paint. That's my second step, and then I would add all my decorative gilding waxes and everything. I told you guys in the beginning that I photographed this piece without the transfer on it first. That's the only reason I have as much done on here as I do right now. I'm gonna flip to the other side. This just feels more natural. This script is kind of a pain. These tiny details, oh my gosh, you know what transfers a pain to put on is Never Ending Story, which is all tiny script. That is a hard transfer. It's got a lot of little edges. Yeah, Would You Bend has so many different designs, you guys. I mean, I have a fraction of them. I want them all. There's so many. I want to say she had over 400 designs last I checked. You know, Would You Bend designs are gonna be like the new Beanie Babies, you know, where there's so many out there you don't even know. And then someone's got the rare one Would You Bend that came out in 1982 and she only made 12 of them. That's what Would You Bend's gonna be like because there's so many designs. Like you couldn't even, I'm sure Solly knows them all. I doubt anybody else knows every Would You Bend design that's even out there. Sure Solly knows Would You Bend like the back of her hand. So this part's a little bit easier, which it doesn't have as much of those fine details. Are you guys falling asleep yet? So as you can see, I put my clear coat on under this. I think it may be causing me to have to rub a little bit more, but I don't think it's any penalty. And then I'm just going to push down the seam. I can tell where it is. I can see the seam in there. Like I know there is one, but it's, man, like it's as close to invisible as you're going to get. And then I'll rub everything down with my finger, making sure I don't have any loose ends sticking up, because that finishing pad cannot tell if I've got loose ends sticking up. It will just pull them right up. Once everything is rubbed down with my finger, I'm going to come back with my Dixie Belle finishing pad. And I just rub over all of my transfer. And from here, I will clear coat. So what do you guys think? Would you fill this spot in right here with text, or does that even bother you? Or let it just kind of end, and then I've got a nice break with my flower sitting up in the corner. I like this one flower just hanging out. I think it's cute. Making a drink. Right on. Okay. And then I've got some cute scraps. So these can come together and make a whole nother piece. So I've got a text scrap. I've got this floral right here for maybe like the purses, or all kinds of stuff can go. All kinds of stuff you can use transfer scraps for. Small pieces, a little watering can or a sign or something. All right. So I'll probably go ahead, let's see, and finish up this piece right here. And then keep it the way it is, you think, Lynn? Okay, so we're gonna repeat the same process we did up here at the top, where I'm going to roughly place this. Now this one, I think I'm actually going to lose this entire flower down here. I'm just gonna cut it off. I lose 90% of it anyways, so I'm just gonna cut it out. I'm not even gonna try to put even a piece of it on there. In fact, I'm gonna lose all the script. That's kind of where the placement helps out. Yeah, every piece of script on the side of this, I end up losing too. I'm gonna give myself kind of a rough mark right there. A little piece. And then I'll do what I did up at the top where I'll cut myself, but I'll cut it a little bit excess. Okay, so I just made a little bend in my transfer. I'm just gonna cut everything to this side of it. That's excess. May I please adjust the camera? Do you need to go down like that? All right, so I'll work down here. I'm gonna cut on my lap. You guys can kind of see where I'm cutting. All right, and then I'm gonna start cutting around these leafies. Again, kind of going around my script. Being cautious of what's going to stay with my piece, what will go with the next piece. But like places like here, you know, places like here where it's just white, I don't need to go down inside these and back up again. I can just cut straight across here. It's just white anyways. Okay, now I've got another little flower cluster that I can save for another piece. All this script right here I would have lost anyways. It's outside of my frame. Not wrong piece. Oh, that's my right piece. Right, isn't it? Oh, did I grab the wrong one? Okay, well, you're right, you guys. It is, it's this one. This is what I just cut. Okay, but that's okay. So I just cut out that cluster up at the top. Not ruined. You're right. This is my piece. Good eye, guys. Thank you. So let's try that again. Same concept though. I'm going to lose this cluster of flowers that's down at the bottom. I might keep this red guy right here. I'm feeling, and this is my line. My line falls below this red flower. I don't know. I don't even know if it's worth having a flower down there. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it out. You can always piece pieces back together, puzzle piece them back together too. Like if I wanted to put that piece back in the center where it came from, I could. Yeah, I don't think I want to keep that flower down there. I think it's going to look weird just popping up the bottom. I don't know, but then I'm going to have this cut out right here. I don't know if I want that either. What's better? I'll leave the red flower, but I'm going to cut the pink out. Because my customer actually liked the design in the background of this transfer too. So I'm thinking about that as I go too. She liked the script and things that are in the background on this. So I don't want to cut it all apart and have it missing in places. Okay, I'm not going to cut this off yet because I'm going to wait until I slice the bottom and then it'll come off with that bottom piece that I slice and it'll all be one piece. You like the red flower? I'm going to leave the red flower. It's kind of in a good spot, right? Okay. So now, same thing, I need to cut off the edges where my transfer would overlap so that I don't have an overlapping seam. And that allows me to get these super clean seams. Like, I challenge you to figure out where in here I've got a seam. I can see it in person. I know you guys can't see it on camera though. Oh man, Renea. Yeah, I screw up more transfers on camera trying to teach them, especially these big guys. They really take a lot of time and attention. That's the main thing I wanted to teach you guys here was don't underestimate these 6-piece transfers. But also I wanted to teach you that I cut off the overlapping edges on my seams. So I just cut that right up to the print. And that I start with the middle. Not the top, not the bottom. I start in the middle. You know, I actually might have gotten myself a step ahead because I think I probably would have cut that flower off the top corner of that piece anyways. Huh? How about that? Maybe I'm just thinking ahead. But another reason why I've got the transfer laid out on the floor over here. Do I happen to know the dimensions? If you message me, who just asked for dimensions? Donna, message me. I've got them in my phone, but my phone is recording this live right now, so message me and I can tell you what the dimensions are. Why start in the middle? Because you have to seam these all together. You have to seam them from the top, the sides, and the bottom. So if I would have started at the top, I want to center this flower design. If I would have started at the top, I would have ended up, number one, with excess up here because I want to cut it. This would have all been bumped down too far if I started at the top of the transfer. So starting at the middle, let me see how much I needed to cut of this piece up here and still get these flowers centered on my piece. You can measure it all out. You can see my purple highlights. And I'm not a fan, June. My hair girl put purple in my hair. I'm not a fan. I don't think it looks good with my skin tone, that's why. Not because I care about purple, but I just don't think it looks good on me. But I let her play, and she has fun, and I trust her, so. All right, same thing, guys. I cut the edges all the way up to the print, so now I don't have to overlap my seams. I can butt them right up to each other. I have the Cosmic Roses transfer. That's a big one, Tammy. That's another 6-piece. Okay, so same thing. I've got this center line right here. I can see it. It's just from the manufacturing of this dresser. It's where the veneer was seamed. Okay, and I'm going to match this up to the top. Sorry, all you're going to see is my head. It's more important for me to see it and not mess it up. Once I get a pretty good line going all the way across, I can kind of run with it. Okay, it's a little slightly off right here, but I'm not going to pull this off. I don't dare. Yeah, it's too close everywhere else. Totally not worth it. Okay, and now I've got a piece down here. I'm gonna go ahead and slice this. You need your hair done so bad. Our hair salons were closed forever. I could finally go, and then they closed back again. All right, so I'm gonna slice this off before it sticks to anything, and then I can save this piece down here at the bottom too. Just using my razor knife, I'm gonna ride the edge of this trim. This is the last piece I'm gonna do on camera, then I'm gonna get off. And then I'm gonna go watch election results for the next 12 hours. I keep politics off my page, you guys, but I do follow them. I did vote. Did everyone vote? Are you guys watching me without voting? Guess East Coast polls are closed, so you guys can't. You guys are off the hook. California polls are still open. Are they? Yep. You've got a little bit longer if you're in California. Or maybe you're watching me while waiting in line at the polls. That is a possibility too. Okay, I'm going to match this piece back up to the backing so that I can save it. I have a leaf here I want to cut around. It doesn't make any sense to leave it, so I'm just going to use my razor knife instead of my scissors, and I'm going to let it go with my scrap. It doesn't make any sense on my piece, but it makes perfect sense with my scrap. I need scissors for the assist. More scissors. All right, and then I've got my scrap off. It's a nice, lovely scrap. I've got a pretty flower on here. I'm going to take my backing sheet that it came off of, and I'm going to put it back on here, and I'll cut this backing sheet, and I'll save this. And then I have like a few transfer tubes that I just roll up the scraps together and save them. So it's back on the backing sheet, and I've got another scrap. Put those guys up here. My other scraps I saved. I've got some pretty flowers. I'll get a couple pieces. Are you cutting into your paint finish? No, I'm not pressing that hard. Clarice, you voted. Let's see. You're watching Fox and you. Right on, Juana. Oh, you're Canadian, Francine. All right, you're off the hook. Jen, you voted a week ago. Good. Oh, South Tennessee, or Tennessee, you're closed. I don't have any molds on this, but I use amazing resin from Alumilite. If you go to my Facebook page, it is pinned. The link is pinned to the first post on my Facebook page, and I have a link for amazing resin directly from the manufacturer. You can get it in sizes up to a gallon. That is the only place I get my resin from. In fact, if you use that link with code, ready, write this down, with code BRUSHED10, you get 10% off. 10% off. And I'm doing I'm doing a live with them on Instagram next week. So, pin to the top of my Facebook page, use code BRUSHED10 for 10% off. Is a code for amazing casting resin for molds. Lynn voted, Tom voted, you guys are awesome. Sean and I voted. We dropped off our ballots a few days ago. I can hear the air bubbles popping, so I'm just getting a nice seam in between my piece, and then I'm going to find a piece or a little corner over here with the fingernail that I can pull back. Gwen, you just bought some resin? Oh, you guys voted a couple weeks ago. See, we don't have early voting like that in California. We can't vote that early here. You can vote absentee and mail your ballot in, I guess, that early. But otherwise, we don't have like no polling places are open that early. All right, I don't have a good edge here when I'm pulling it up. If you start pulling up more of your transfer than you want, just go back and rub it a little bit. I didn't have a good seam on that, a good seating. Go over this one again too. And then hopefully, yeah, there we go. Now when I pull it back, it's pulling up much easier. I just hadn't rubbed it enough. Okay, same thing. Hopefully this one goes smoothly. Oh, I've got a little piece of green right there. I'm just gonna rub it on. Okay. A little piece right there. You pay attention as you go. You should not lose pieces of the transfer. A lot of these leaves are wanting to pull out. So I just set it back down and rub over them all again. There we go. I don't actually like the transfer tool. I use it for the initial rub, but I feel like I get better contact with the wood stick. There we go. So I like the transfer tool for that initial rub that gets the broad space, but I like the softness of the wood for rubbing into a paint finish. I don't want to damage it, especially areas that I'm having to rub a little bit more. I definitely don't want to scratch my paint off. Just paying attention to all the edges as I'm going. Yeah, I'm starting to feel it in the arm. So this is piece number 3 of 6. Got a good seam right there. Just rubbing them together. If you have transfer seams that you're not happy with, you can take a little bit of paint. When you put clear coat over the transfer, if you've painted in a couple spots, you cannot even tell. So I could take like some Plum Crazy and some Peony and some Muscadine Wine and fix if I wanted to. You really want to use resin, but you love air dry clay. Do you offer online classes? I don't currently have a lot of demand for it. I'm in the process of hiring a second assistant. I need some help because I don't have any time. So I've got a lot of demand for stuff, but I've got to get a team together, I think, before I could have the time to do it. And that means having help with my social media pages. So it's not impossible for the future. Everything I was scheduled to do in person was canceled with COVID. I'm super busy, guys. I'm super busy. I paint constantly. I do a lot behind the scenes for Dixie Belle. I do a lot for Prima, although I am going to be stepping down from their team. My choice. It's a good thing. So I'm getting a team together. I have a request out to hire another assistant. Can you just chalk paint? I'm not understanding that question. Can you just chalk paint top coat instead of the resin? I'm not understanding that question. Oh, Susan, you're so sweet. Yeah, my son is doing great. In fact, you guys, he had my son had surgery on his neck a couple weeks ago now. I can't even tell you how beautiful they closed his neck up. This sounds crazy, but the incision is like invisible. The surgical glue just came off. It's a beautiful scar. Top 2 p.m. Yeah, Susan, I have had to say no. And that's what I usually respond with, is that I don't currently offer any one-on-one classes. I also think there's so much demand. Like, I get messages with that question all the time. There's so much demand. It would, if I offered it in like a day, it would book out for like 6 months. That sounds crazy, but I mean, it's really one of the most in demand things. So it's in my head, but I've got to figure out a way to find the time to make that carve out before it's something that I can commit to. You know, that's why it was nice when we could do group events, because then like 200 people would show up in a day. I could teach them all the same technique. But when it's one-on-one, it's a lot harder. This has satin clear coat over it, and I'm going to seal it again in satin clear coat. Gator hide can react. It's not every time, you guys. And I spray my clear coat, so I don't usually have it happen to me. Gator hide can react with the adhesives and the transfers and cause them to lift. For that to happen, you have to have an air pocket under your transfer. Gator hide has to be able to find the adhesive, but it's a liquid. So if you burnish well and you have no air pockets, you can put gator hide over the top. But if it finds that adhesive, it can start to lift it. So the best thing to do there is put a coat of satin clear over the top of the transfer. Put your gator hide over that. Then you've created a barrier. Having to rub this bottom piece a lot. It's got a lot of small detail. This piece is taking a long time. I will have been on for like an hour and gotten like half this transfer done. This baby's a 2-hour job. But I'll back away. Once I'm done with this piece, I'll back away and you'll be able to at least see this 50% mark. And then you'll be able to sympathize and think about me when I have to go through and do the other half of it, right? All by myself. And I won't have you guys here to tell me that I'm using the wrong piece. I'll bring you guys in close for this grand finale. This is where we're working, right down here. A lot of small details around the edge of this transfer. Oh, you guys want to know what we're doing this weekend? Do you have a video on how to apply sapphire glaze? I'm not a glaze fan. I don't have a lot of glaze videos. I've only done one piece with sapphire glaze. Okay, glaze sprays beautifully. If you spray your glaze, you get nice even coverage. It'll give you an even shimmer over your entire piece. The pearlescent glazes, glaze sprays beautifully. Otherwise, it's like putting on a metallic. You want to put it on in thin, even coats. You're going to see brush strokes in it. So you want to do long, even strokes. Build up coverage if you want it thicker. It's like painting a metallic. The sapphire pearl is. Same with the regular pearlescent glaze, the non-sapphire one. It's like putting a metallic on. So I would follow a lot of the same rules about putting on sapphire paint, except of course you don't need to, mist with water and you're not blending it or anything like that. You just want to get even coverage. Even coverage with glazes is what makes a huge difference in the look. In the pearlescent glazes. And it's a metallic. An hour and 11, I'm so fast. Oh, Donna. Amazing Alumilite casting resin. Yes, amazing casting resin. There is a link pinned to the top of my Facebook page. says Smart Bio, Brush by Brandy. Has all of my links in one place, you guys. You can use code BRUSHED10 and get 10% off at that link for amazing casting resin. So if you ever are looking for one of my links, they're always pinned to the top of my Facebook page, and that's Smart Bio. It's in the very first post. That's every link in one place. Transfers, Dixie Belle, Illumilite. There's some stencil links in there, all kinds of stuff, all in one place. So I'm rubbing over this with my fingers. All right, let's back up a little bit. You guys want to see the 50% mark? You guys want to see what an hour of rubbing at transfers gets you? It gets you, it's like one of those videos, like a before and after, like before weight loss and after. That's where I am, before transfer and after. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, but I'm only halfway done after an hour. Now, granted, it does take a little bit longer to do it on camera. Everything takes longer on camera. Silk on a banister. Silk would be beautiful on a banister. Here's what I like silk for. I like silk for those solid color single finishes. It's a tougher paint, okay? It's very durable in itself. It does not need a primer under it. It does not need a clear coat, although I probably will always clear coat even silk because I give my pieces to customers. Here's what it doesn't do well. It doesn't do blending. It doesn't do dripping. It doesn't do boho. It doesn't do, you know, all those artistic, funky, colored finishes. It doesn't do those well. If you're doing cabinets with a single color finish, silk is great, but it won't be available to the public until January. What does the hardware look like? You guys want to see the hardware for this? So, let's see. Let's take a... You guys know that the piece that I did with the sirens on the front? It had sirens and the shipwreck. You guys remember this piece? This goes with that set. It's got the same hardware, which is gorgeous hardware. Look at these handles. This is my hardware. Holy smokes. You see that? This is why I always use vintage hardware. There is nothing like this nowadays. This is gorgeous. So I do have a vanity still left in this set, you guys. Has a chair, the desk part, and then the mirror. It's gorgeous. And it has this hardware on it. If you're looking for a vanity. All right. You can see here where I folded that transfer. Remember, I cut along the bottom of the drawer so that I can just fold this ever so slightly over the top. I've got a nice fold line right there. So when I shut my drawer, it just disappears into that seam. I don't have a big black stripe. Send it to me. It's hard to break up a set, Cindy, but I find that usually it does better when I do break up a set. So what I typically do on a set is I will offer it together at first. I'll offer everything together. And if I don't have any takers, I break it up. Depends on what I get a taker for first. I love if they take them together, but it's harder. So this would be a 3-piece set. And I've gotten 3 really different looks out of them. One's not finished yet, but so that's beautiful. So what do you think? This little red rose peeking up from the bottom, does it look okay? I think it looks okay. And then I'll have this cluster around the middle, a couple clusters. I might fill in it up here with just a little bit of script so it looks like it's continuous. I've got that script, that scrap that has script on it. All right, you guys, I'm gonna get off. I have half a transfer to do. I'm not gonna do it tonight. Yeah, so Francine, we cut, and I cut along the top drawer. I ran my blade flush with that. So then I just have a little edge on this one, and I just fold it over inside the drawer. It's just a tiny, let me show you. It's a tiny little line. If you watch this back, you'll see where we cut it. And now I'm going to show you what that cut line looks like. I have to go up like this. Okay, it's a really clean line, but see how it's just folded over ever so slightly? That's just from the cut. I fold it inside into the inside, and that way when the drawers are closed, whereas if I would have cut it flat along here, then it's more noticeable instead of my print just running inside there. Okay. Royal Burgundy, yes, available at the link that I put in the post. So looks great on grays, guys. I will get this one done. You'll get photos of it with and without the transfer, and then you can see just the paint finish alone too, the paint combo alone. All right, I'm gonna let you guys go. Happy election night. I hope it's happy. Oh, I hope it's happy. I need some rest. Yeah, I've done a lot of pieces. Just, what are we on, the 3rd of the month, and I think I've got 7 pieces photographed. Some of that's rolling from last month though. And I've got 3 pieces left to put on this. I'm just gonna pile them. I'm gonna go ahead and set them up top so they're not on the floor. What will I seal with? I'm gonna put a coat of satin clear coat over the transfer, and then I'll spray with gator hide. The satin clear is just to create a barrier between the transfer and gator hide, so that it never experiences lifting. The only time I've had a transfer lift with gator hide was in extreme heat. Storing the piece in a hot building, the transfer can start lifting. It's got gator hide in direct contact with it. All right, you guys. Have a good night. Yes, American flag, Georgine. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night, you guys. Good night.